Here we are on Wednesday Night Live. I am making something that's been special in my husband's family for many years. Let me just turn this around on me for a minute. Hi, I'm here getting ready to shoot an episode on YouTube. I've never done this before and I don't really know how this is going to work, but I'm going to share the YouTube link for you guys on Wednesday night when you expect to see the show. So I'm looking forward to trying YouTube. Anyway, back to what I'm doing. So I am making a recipe that my husband's family has been making for many years. It's called lasagna roll, and I will post this on my Wednesday Night Live Facebook page so you can see the recipe. It's something that won a contest, maybe the Pillsbury Bake Off or Cook Off or something, and my mother-in-law saw this in a magazine, I presume, or on a TV show, and she started to make it, and my husband really, really likes it. So I figured, since we just celebrated my birthday and might be a nice time to do something different because I don't always cook too often. I thought I would give it a shot today. So I'm starting with just a skillet on the stove, and I'm going to start with the first bit of ingredients, which does include a chopped onion, and I may not be your most proficient chopper, but I do chop things now and again. So let me make sure you can see my chopping. I'm trying to film on a short tripod because there we go, look at that onion there. Because my other tripod is in the garage, and here in Ohio where I'm filming, it is raining like crazy. It's been quite the rainy day. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up this onion, and I think I'm going to borrow a little tip from Rachel. And when I say Rachel, of course, I mean Rachel Ray. She and I go way back. I've been watching her on TV for years. That's how far we go back. I don't really know Rachel Ray, but I am hoping to become a famous celebrity one day, and so maybe I'll meet her. But anyway, she has a thing called a garbage bowl, and so that's what I'm going to do here, since my trash can is actually not where it belongs right now. It is instead it's just out of sight of the camera, and it's pretty much full and needs to go out. And like I said, it's raining. I did not want to go out more than I had to tonight. So I'm just getting this onion ready. I don't often chop onions. In fact, I may have said this on an episode before, a year ago or so. When I do chop onions and my hands start to smell like onions, it harkens me back to memories of Mouse, my grandmother, because I used to sit on her lap a lot. Maybe even until I was really way too old to be sitting on her lap, probably high school aged or college. But when I did, we would watch TV together, and I could smell her hands, and her hands always smelled like your hands smell when you chop an onion, and that's because she was the sort of wife that would cater to her husband, and my grandfather really liked chopped onions as often as possible, and so she would chop onions, and that was about the extent of her cooking. She was not a really great cook. My other grandmother, however, whose lap I rarely sat on, but she was the most amazing cook that I've ever met in my entire life, and she was also very humble, even though I think she knew she was a good cook, and she knew people really enjoyed what she made. But she gave me some advice at one of my wedding showers, which I found poignant and accurate, and that was very simple: if you can read, you can cook. And so I've always taken that to heart and realized that cooking really isn't too hard as long as you can read and follow directions. So I think that's really great advice, and I have enjoyed cooking for many years, but I don't do it like I used to. When I was first married, I was much more proficient at meal planning, things like that, and then I made some mistakes along the way of raising my children, and I did not do as much meal planning for them. We became a modern, busy family and used way too many drive-throughs and things like that, and I became a full-time working mom, which is great. I wanted to do that, and I'm glad for doing that, but I just lost track of a lot of meal planning. So my kids ate a lot of things that were from Sam's or Costco or whatever, and we would get in some ruts like dinosaur chicken or those wheels and cheese, many different ruts that we got into for meals. So I haven't done a ton of cooking in the past several years as I've been driving back and forth to swimming pools and dance studios. But once in a while I like to cook, and I'm hoping to get back into it. In fact, I have a friend, she and I have been trying to think about how we can help our daughters eat healthier, and neither one of us is really that interested in meal planning and cooking anymore, because we've both just become accustomed to our choices that we've made over the past many years of having young children and then teenage children at home. And so now we have to change our ways, and learn from those parents that we're friends with that have not lost track of cooking, and then add in the healthy living piece too. So of course onions are very healthy. They're mostly water, and then I'm certain that they have a lot of vitamins and things like that. But they also have a lot of flavor, which is why onions are great. And some might like them more than others. But anyway, this is a very rough chop because I'm not too super worried about anything with this. I do have my skillet on over here, and I don't have anything in particular in there to put these onions in. I'm going to roll over to this recipe card. This is from probably 1993 or maybe 1992. My mother-in-law made this for my husband, who was living alone for the first time, and she may have missed some of the things that we need here in her directions, but it says that you'll need an onion chopped up, so I guess I'm going to put the onion in here with the meat and the spices and the tomato paste and just cook it. Let me see if she wrote down any directions. Brown the meat in a skillet. Add onion chopped up. Drain off the grease. Okay, so I guess I put the meat in first. So the meat that this recipe calls for, let me turn this so you can definitely see, is Laura's lean beef. Of course, 20-some years ago when this card was written, Laura's lean beef did not really exist, but it does now. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. It's 94% lean. And I'm sort of hopeful that having that in there might mean that I don't have to drain this meat. My skillet is hot. I'm going to get out something that I received years ago at a Christmas gift from my husband's sister, Missy. This is a Pampered Chef chopper thing. It works really great when you're making ground beef. And this mixture is going to be enough to make 2 of the lasagna rolls that we're making. And I have some Bob Evans sausage here. Any kind of sausage will do, whatever you prefer. I just got your basic Bob Evans sausage. And having that in here will add an element of flavor really easily without me having to add a whole lot more. Although I am going to add some spices in the onion. So I'm just tossing this in here. And I do have a lot of Pampered Chef products. I never use Pampered Chef as a sponsor on Wednesday Night Live, but I probably should because I'm often using their things. Years ago I had a very successful Pampered Chef party. So I have their whole line of cookware and a lot of other accessories that go along with it. And it's been really nice. And since, like I said, I don't cook constantly, it hasn't gotten tons of wear and tear, even though I've owned it for a long time. And whenever I need it, it does its job. So anyway, I'm trying to get the last little bit of pork sausage out of here. And so I have the pound of ground beef and a pound of sausage in there. And I'll put that trash in the garbage bowl. Thanks, Rachel. And I'm going to go ahead and mix these things up. And the chopper is really nice because it makes, it just really gets the meat ground into nice size, similar size pieces. I really have enjoyed this tool. I don't think it's expensive. If you ever go to a Pampered Chef party and you really don't want to spend a lot of money, I would recommend buying this. It's very simple, but it's sure convenient when you're making a chili or something. Now, I did think about using the Instant Pot for this because, of course, Lori and I have been really using the Instant Pot as much as we can, especially on Wednesday Night Live. And Lori was going to come on and make a Tuscan chicken, but her daughter is a soccer player, and she's really busy with that. So she's probably going to be back next month in October, which is next week, but I don't know when she's coming back. She's getting the schedule soon, and we will get Lori back on here with the Instant Pot. And certainly, she's actually starting a new business, and she is going to be our sponsor. She started Sweet Stanley's Cookies and More. And so, I think it's called Cookies and More. But anyway, So I'm going to bring this over here so you can see what we're doing here. So we're just browning the sausage and the ground beef together. And so that's what you see happening right there in that. I'm going to go ahead and add the onions. Let me peek and make sure you can still see. Yes, I'm just going to add the onions. And I might just address a little bit of why I have this recipe card from so long ago. So my husband's mother has a daughter and a son. And her son, Ryan, my husband, had a period of time, as did her daughter, where they did not live in the same city. And of course, right now it's still that way. They live in Virginia and we live in Ohio. But for a long period, we all lived in the same place in Ohio. But when Ryan was in college, he lived on his own in Atlanta, and his parents lived in Dayton, Ohio, where I met them. And then later I met Ryan through his mother. But anyway, and also my parents ironically moved to Atlanta, so it worked out really nicely. So for the end of my husband's college career, for a whole year, he lived with my parents, and that was a definite blessing for him because my mom cooked him food every single night, and he ate mint chocolate chip ice cream and saved a lot of money that he would have otherwise paid for an apartment. So that was really shout out to my mom and dad for hosting him for a full year. But anyway, his mom, when he first started living alone, made him a little set of recipe cards for vegetable beef soup and for chicken and noodles, and then for this lasagna roll. This lasagna roll, as you may see as we continue to cook tonight, isn't particularly healthy. So it's not a common, it's not a dish that we can eat very often in our home because it's really delicious, and I hope you make this. But sausage and ground beef and all the cheeses and the crescent rolls that are in this recipe do not lend to a Weight Watchers kind of diet program. Of course, I don't know if you all saw, but I've been doing Weight Watchers for a while now, and they've sort of changed their focus. They just announced today they're going to be called WW, which is to remain, I guess, modern, and they're going to be focusing on wellness and meditation and things, and in addition to their healthy cooking. So over there, my Instant Pot, I will show you. Dun, da, 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 it's just finished up. So over there, I'm making some chicken in the Instant Pot. I'm just going to let that natural release. Sometime on the show, I'll have to show you what I do with the chicken that I make. So I buy bone-in breasts of chicken, and those are 0 points, although they're probably not because the bone's in them, and that probably adds fat while they cook, but it certainly improves the flavor versus just boneless, skinless chicken breast. So I just count them as 0 points anyway on the WW, but that might be a little bit illegitimate, but whatever. So anyway, I'm not seeing a lot of fat on this since I used the Laura's lean beef, so I'm not going to worry a whole lot about this. And again, let's hope this is actually recording. But normally, if I would have used a chuck or something that was a lot less lean, I would be draining this meat. I'm not too terribly interested in that, and I don't really think anyone else in my family will eat this besides Ryan, and I will have some too because it smells delicious, and I'm not shy about eating cooked onions, and neither is he, so I'm not worried that my chopping skills leave something to be desired. And again, I really could drain this. As it cooks for a minute, I will consider whether or not I'm going to. Anyway, so back to me here. So I'm trying this method of putting something on YouTube, and I'm going to see how it works, because in the long run, it would be nice to have sponsors on this show that were that I could feature their products and things like that. And a student in my class last year told me that YouTube is where it's at for that. So I'm going to try YouTube here and there. I'm not committing to changing entirely to YouTube, but I have had some funny issues with Facebook deleting some of my Facebook Live, Wednesday Night Live videos, and I don't know why, and I tried to communicate with them, and they did not really respond with anything other than a canned answer. So since I don't really feel that they have a big concern as to why they choose or not to take away my videos, I'm not totally committed to their platform, but I still will be using Facebook as a way to share. But I might switch to YouTube for the bulk of my videos and then see where that takes me in terms of sponsorship and things like that. I have no idea. Let's go over here and look at what we've got. So I have two foil lined baking sheets, and that's because I decided to go ahead and make the full recipe of this, which actually is enough to make 2 of these lasagna rolls. I'm going to be using crescent rolls. I bought the generic because they were 10 for $10, so I bought that. And I'm going to add some tomato paste, you can see right here, over here to my meat that is simmering. So let's look at it again and let's make some choices. So as I look at this, I'm thinking, yes, the wise thing to do, which of course that is my maiden name, would be to drain this meat. But also if I let it cook a little bit and add the tomato paste and let it cook down, I think it'll be okay. There's not like a ton of liquid on this or grease, so I'm just going to keep using this chopper, which is really nice for things like this. And I'm going to look for my can opener now and get into the tomato paste and go ahead and add that in. And I'm not going to worry about draining this meat. I think it'll be fine because Laura gives me very lean meat. Those of you who probably are watching some of what you're eating, you might be using Laura's lean beef as well. But notice how small I can get these little pieces of ground beef and sausage, and that's because of this nice tool that my sister-in-law Missy gave me from Pampered Chef. So again, this is the lasagna roll that has, I think it won a Pillsbury Bake Off many years ago, probably in the 80s, and my husband's family has been enjoying this ever since. Basically, she makes it for him. He must have said, "Oh, Mom, this is a dear favorite." And there are a lot of other things that he didn't like growing up that they ate, like Johnny Marzetti and things like that. I'm not really sure if they even called it that. I think they called it goulash, like a macaroni and cheese mixture, macaroni with beef and tomato sauce. He did not really like that. But another thing that, I don't know, if you're meeting somebody and you really get to know them, you find out funny things that their family does. One of the things that Ryan's family does, which I always found hilarious, when they make grilled cheese, which I would call grilled cheese, they call it cheese toasties, which is so adorable, but kind of weird. But anyway, my mom sometimes called it a toasted cheese sandwich, so I knew what they were talking about. I call it grilled cheese, but Ryan's mom calls it cheese toasties. I don't know if she says that when she talks to who she lives with now, who's Ryan's dad, but anyway, that kind of made it sound like she lives with some weird third party. She lives with Ryan's dad, but since he's like 69 years old, I wonder if she still uses the term cheese toasties with him or not. But that was a new term for me when I met their family. I had not heard that before. But anyway, like I said, families have different things. And I have another grilled cheese story. Once I was at a retreat in college in Indiana, and I went to school in Oxford, Ohio. And we went to Indiana for a retreat. And on the way back, we stopped at this young man's home who was a friend of ours. His name was Andy. And there were several of us. And we showed up on a Sunday afternoon at this poor mother's house. I can't even imagine. And we wanted her to fix us food. And so she did. She made us grilled cheese sandwiches. But she put mayonnaise on the grilled cheese sandwich, which I thought was absolutely horrifying. But I was polite and I tried to eat it, but I don't like mayonnaise at all. So mayonnaise on a grilled cheese sandwich was not good news. I will say, even though I mentioned at the opening of the show that my children grew up eating a whole lot of dinosaur chicken and wheels and cheese and other prepared foods, my oldest child is 20 now, and she eats anything and everything, including mayonnaise and including vegetables on sandwiches and a lot of things like that. And I am still a plain turkey and cheese and maybe some shredded lettuce kind of girl. So I have to say, parents, if you are having a picky child, it's not necessarily going to be forever. Although I have a friend who I teach with who's still very picky, and his mom made him sit at the table as a kid, and he had to sit there forever because he wouldn't eat the food that she was serving him, and he's still really picky to this day. So I guess it varies. Anyways, I'm incorporating this tomato paste, and when you get to starting to having to do things like this, this tool from Pampered Chef may not be the best tool ever for this kind of thing, but it's fine. I'm going to get some Italian seasoning, which I put over here. I bought this at Sam's a while ago, and some garlic. But the recipe that my mother-in-law gave me says to use basically a bunch of different things that exist in this Italian seasoning. So you can see It's a big bottle from Sam's. It says it's spaghetti seasoning. This recipe is definitely an Italian sort of recipe. So she said you just sprinkle some around the pan. I don't know. I'm being very liberal with these ingredients because it's going to cook down anyhow. So I'm going to go ahead now and incorporate not only the tomato paste, but also the spaghetti seasoning to make this meat mixture, which is going to go in our lasagna rolls. It's funny, there's no noodles in this recipe. It is actually made out of Pillsbury crescent